like to call the Property Management Committee to order. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. I guess I will probably need some of the commissioners that's on the board.
I've read those minutes, Mr. Chair. If I know the order, I'll move for approval.
Got a motion by Commissioner.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First order of business is a USDA office space, Lane Agri Park. They don't have no representative here? Okay, I don't see no representative from the Agri Park Lane Centers, but what basically we got to do, bring up tonight is the current lease for the Rutherford County USDA Service Center located in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, is set to expire November the 30th. The USDA has confirmed their continuing need for continued occupancy and would like to exercise the renewal option of our current lease for an additional 50 months, 50-month term at the pre-negotiated rate. Now, I don't know the rate. We could just take it on the advisement next month. I don't see Lisa here. Do you know?
It's my understanding it's the same rate.
$15.50 a square foot looks like.
$15.50 a square foot.
Page 2.
$144,150 a year.
144.
Go here.
We have to look at your I can't get mine up. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do you know, or Mayor Ketchum, do you know the last time we looked at that rate? Is that good market rate for them, or when was that agreement established where that was the rate? Do we know? I don't know.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't know that.
I don't have an idea, but if they're asking for continuation for 50 months, like we probably looked at it at last election.
At least 5
term.
years ago
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what it looked like to me.
I remember the lease is paying for that building.
Right. I do know that. But so it looked like the annual rent of $144,150 payable at the rate of $12.50 per month, representing $15.50 per square foot. We don't have any representatives here from the Ag Center, so do you have any questions, or do you want me to table it to next month? Because the lease is not up until November the 30th. So if you got any questions, if you want to get them up here, we can table it to next month and definitely have a representative from them up here. If you got any questions, are you feel comfortable with moving on it tonight?
I'm comfortable with moving on.
Okay, do I hear a motion from the committee?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I would like to know. I'll probably vote no, only because I don't have probably enough background to feel comfortable making a decision on that.
Okay, we got.
Not about the idea, but.
And we got a couple of new commissioners on this committee. So if you feel like that we need to table it or whatever, just voice your opinion.
You come up your county commissioner, right?
No, once we approve it here, I'll send it on the budget.
I'd like to know a little more about it, a little more information, have a little more information for
Okay. Any other commissioner would like any more information about it, since you're new on the committee?
So this rent, that's what I'm understanding, is the same rate, and it is paying the debt note on the building?
Right, same, no change, none whatsoever.
I don't have any other questions. I'm ready to go forward, but
Okay, we got a motion and second. Call the roll this morning.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
No.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
No.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
5 to 2.
Okay, we'll go ahead and send that on the budget. But what we will do, we'll ask for a representative to be at the next meeting. So if you got any questions or concern, you can ask that representative then. But I would like to go ahead and send it on the budget because you got a November 30th deadline.
Sure.
So therefore, we need to get it on the budget so they can approve it, then get it to the full commission so they can approve it. And we gotta meet that November 30th deadline, so I like to send it on.
And may I ask that at budget, either we see the lease or have somebody interpret the lease for us?
Okay, who's representative on property management on budget? Who's on budget? Trey.
Commissioner Gooch.
Okay, so we can leave it up to Commissioner Gooch to get more information.
And the committee can request a copy of the lease.
Right.
Tomorrow if they want,
Right.
you know.
We can do it like
And then
that.
be prepared for the budget.
Full, yeah. We can do it like that, but I hate to hold it up here and miss that November 30th deadline.
Sure.
Well, your last paragraph tells you if you have any questions.
Okay. Next, repurposing old judicial building, bank coin building, and what we are going to do, we're gonna move around on the agenda just a little bit here. I want to go ahead and take care of the parking lot at 319 North Maple Street. That's item 6 on the agenda. And could have Lisa come forward?
Sure.
And our mayor would like to bring us up to date on some of the issues that we're having with the parking lot.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I was approached by our 3 constitutional officers that are in the clerk's office building, and when they approached me, as a result of us moving and a lot of that traffic moving into the new judicial building, it's created some real traffic issues that this committee needs to start here with. They expressed concern about is there some way that we could work with the city or get direction from this committee to maybe have the traffic come in one way on the ingress, and egress would be coming out off of, if you come in off of, that is Burton Street, and then exit onto Maple Street. Is that correct?
Walnut.
Or Walnut, coming off of Walnut also, and then just have one exit, because right now it's so congested of people trying to come in and go out at the same time. It would help on the flow. That's one issue that needs to be discussed, and jointly with this discussion is the number of people who are parking going to the judicial building and not using the new parking facility that was built for the judicial building, because it's crowded. Like early in the morning, court fills up and it's full because Pinnacle Bank is using it, and so is Murfreesboro Electric. I wasn't here at the time, but many of you remember that they were given an opportunity, both Pinnacle and Murfreesboro City, along with Murfreesboro Electric, was given an opportunity to join in on the building of that facility, and they declined. But so it's my recommendation in working with through the PBA, because the PBA still controls this, is to discuss tonight among this committee, and I'll turn it over to Lisa here in just a second and let her explain a little bit more detail about the traffic problems. But to work with the PBA and putting in, because they did stub out in the building of that garage, putting in an arm with, you push a button from a little kiosk and you get the ticket. It would be validated for those going over to the judicial building for court. We're having a lot of problems already in that brand new building. A lot of the homeless are defecating in the elevators and stairways. The skateboarders are causing damage to some of the property already by skateboarding up on the ramp on the top. They're spray painting with graffiti, etc. So we need to get some security. And I believe I was told this afternoon in our meeting that security cameras have been installed this week. So Lisa, if you want to just kind of talk about your parking lot, and then we'll move over to the other parking lot where some of your employees are parking now as well.
Basically, he's explained it. In a nutshell, we just have a parking issue. I mean, it's safety, it's forcing those that have to utilize our office to just park however they can get their vehicle parked inside that parking lot. They're parking up on the curbs. They're blocking other vehicles in parking places. They're being forced to do these things because there is no parking in that parking lot for them to use our building. A lot of it is happening first thing in the morning. I've looked back over our camera system, and so what's happening is some of the staff from the judicial building is starting to park in our parking lot, and I'm seeing it more and more. Then the people that are having to go to the judicial building are then filling up the rest of the parking lot. Then, you know, it's leaving no parking places. Today, prime example, I understand that the last Thursday of each month they have a certain type of jury that they have. The parking lot at 319 was overly full. I mean, they were parked on the curbs, they were parked in front of the dumpster, there was absolutely no parking. They were parking, they were blocking actually an entrance. They could not even get into our parking lot. So I went on over to the judicial building, and there was an officer there actually stopping traffic because that parking lot was at capacity.
The new parking facility.
Yes, the new parking facility was at capacity. So thank goodness while I was sitting there, one car left. I went up to the 3rd floor, and then I watched as they were letting out of the judicial building. They flooded the parking lot. It emptied out. So then, you know, there was parking available. But this is an everyday occurrence. Today was an extremely bad day.
Certain hours?
At the beginning, it was in the mornings that was the heaviest, but I'm starting to see throughout the day it's just becoming a pattern. So, I mean, we just got a real issue. The people have to utilize my office and they don't have access to park. So, and the same thing with, you know, the Register of Deeds office and the Property Assessor's office. There's no parking for them.
Did I hear the mayor correct say that, is it employees or customers? Electric company, is that customers or employees?
I think it's employees, from what I've been told.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah, I've been told. I don't know that.
Using the
Our
new parking.
our new parking garage that was designed for the parking of the judicial building, and so now it's in full utilization, so we need to make a decision before we go forward. We still have some money. We can talk to our consultant. Gresham Smith is here also, our architect and design company. I think you can maybe call them up, ask them. We have some money left over, I believe, in our budget.
It's a
A little bit
joint
of money
meeting.
left over.
May want to come up now and discuss it. Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, both of them come up, or all three of you.
Because this is a joint meeting between PBA
Oh,
and
yeah.
property.
Well, and we wanted to express there is some real safety issues with the situation that we have. the parking.
Well, I can start. The garage, I'm Steve Johnson, the architect on the new judicial center in the garage. The garage was designed to allow controls to be installed there. And the decision was made not to install them at the beginning. So that is an option that can, the garage can be controlled so that you can limit or allow whoever is the proper user for that garage. So that is an option that is available. As to the parking lot, we really haven't, hadn't worked in that area. So
Where do the employees in Melissa's office park?
The,
In the parking garage?
yes,
So employees and your all's office as well as the judicial building could be given a swipe card, I would assume. You could set that up to where they can come in and the arm opens and they're able to get access to park there, as well as if you're there for just a trial with your family or anything else, they can push a button and then have the ticket validated for an hour or two or whatever at no cost. But it's gonna help control the flow of other folks and from the private sector and the other municipality entity from taking over the garage.
Right.
was it, forgive me for having to ask this, but what's our concept for employee parking? It was sized for employee parking and visitors to the judicial center. It was not sized to be a downtown garage to serve multiple users. So the actual size of the garage was based on the function of the courthouse.
So otherwise, we need to start charging.
Employees of the judicial,
And the visitors. And the visitor traffic.
was it designed for, you got our constitutional officer employees?
No.
319 is for, does 319 have your employees plus visitors?
yes.
So Lisa, you said today that there, with the constitutionals, Rob and Heather and you, there's 100 and, there's 70 something employees. And then, so with your employees, every one of them being there all at one time on the same day, which is rare. But if everybody showed up for work, same time, you have how many empty spaces?
38.
38, so they're coming and going, buying their tags or doing whatever with Rob and Heather's department as well. Okay.
And when they visit my office to take care of business, it's a steady flow. It's not a half a day parking. It's normally not even an hour parking. So it keeps the flow of traffic moving. I don't know that if we've been at full capacity with full staff in that whole building since I've been in office. So that's a rarity if that were to happen. But it's worked for us in the past. At the end of the month and at the first of the month, it's busy. It's real busy. But again, the flow turns over pretty quickly. But with the issue we got now, it's a different story.
If we made those changes to the parking, would that still necessitate a need to change the traffic flow as far as one way in, one way out?
Yes.
I guess what I'm hung up on, and Mayor Ketchum, correct me if I'm wrong, we gave the electric group and the city the chance to participate in the parking structure.
We gave them the option.
That's my
We gave them the option.
So they said no.
They said no to additional 2 stories that we asked them if they wanted to go in on the project, and they said no, flat no.
But they're taking advantage of it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was getting at. We need to figure out how to correct that quickly. Now, you mentioned, Steve, is the infrastructure already in place to have some sort of swipe mechanism there or something like that?
There is some conduit in the ground that allows the control devices to be installed.
Okay.
How does a judicial center visitor use the facility as opposed to someone who's not an employee of the bank? Well, it's wide open and there are no, but even if there were, I thought somebody, did you say if there's an arm, employees of the judicial building would swipe, how would visitors to the
They can push a button and get a ticket like you do
to pay at the machine?
Yeah.
You might even be able to have a section that says
validate.
2 hours is,
Any person
yeah, valid,
can go
something
in
like that.
and punch the key,
And get the ticket.
get a ticket, and what do you do with that ticket if you don't go to the judicial? Do you have to pay it to
You have
get
to
out?
pay to get out.
Okay, thank you. That was.
Once you get in, you gotta get out by paying.
These systems now are so automated, you rarely have an attendant. They're usually self-service. You can have an attendant, but that's an added expense.
They would just pay with the debit card or check.
Yeah, with a
whatever.
credit card swipe.
Or validation from.
Or whoever had the authority to validate a ticket. You know, they could put a sticker or a barcode on it so it's scanned.
I think you mentioned Montgomery County got a system.
Yeah, Montgomery County, they have a similar situation really with their courthouse and judicial center complex, and they do have a parking garage very similar to this right across the street. Now what they use is they use a kiosk where you have to, pull a ticket out of the kiosk, pay, and put it in your dashboard. They do not have operating arms or whatever, but it is a kiosk situation, and they do that right across from the
And that is a very common scenario to not even have your arms. You have this.
And y'all were involved with Montgomery County too, were you not?
I was
Back in,
Other than just touring it,
I
and
thought y'all presented it to PBA.
we went up there a number of times
We
and looked at it
spent
as
a
a
lot
model.
of time with them, kind of benchmarking what they do.
Right.
Do you have enough awareness to recommend their system?
I think that's something we'd want to really look closely at.
I know we couldn't necessarily.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, exactly,
tonight.
because there's multiple functions and there's multiple users. So we'd want to make sure that, whatever system got put in, if that's the direction you choose to go, that it fits, all parties. And we want to be careful about
Yeah,
that.
they are resources to talk to,
Yeah.
parking management companies and folks that are really experts.
The reason
in
we're
that
bringing it
field.
up tonight is it's becoming a top priority in safety and the capacity of our parking lot over there. And what we would like to do is give PBA the authority to go out and look at these different options and possibly bring them back to us at the next meeting. But it's such a high priority now, we need to give them the okay tonight to get to work on it, so we can get it back by next meeting, and then we'll look at the different options that they bring back. Commissioner Gooch?
How would this, or would this stop the skateboarders? How do you stop that?
That's difficult. The cameras is, the cameras will help, and just monitoring it. One of the things that the skateboarders do in there is they get up on the top deck and skate to the bottom. So they go 50 miles an hour down the ramps, is what they do.
Is that like are they doing that in the evening when it's not out, or just all the time?
Yeah, basically, and they do other things as well, like discharge the fire extinguishers and things of that nature, just, mischievous type things. But the cameras will help with that and starting to monitor that.
Did you mention there's already some funds in place from our consultants that could be?
Our consultants, how much do we have left in excess?
What we have left right now in the judicial center is about $120,000 in the job. We're probably going to get back from the contractor, because there is a construction contingency left, probably somewhere around $40,000 there. So we're going to be in the range of probably $150,000, $160,000 is where we are. So. And we're winding up really the details and the final bills and final invoices and things of that nature. But that's generally about where we are.
And recommendation to the committee to ask them why they're looking at this is to address the constitutional officer's parking lot as far as signage. Maybe just signage of telling people not to park if you're going to the judicial building, park over in the judicial building parking lot. And if we're going to make a recommendation on ingress and egress, in and out of that, I think we probably need to cover all that at the same time. Recommendation.
And I think that the PBA will be able to bring it back to us at the next meeting.
The next meeting, I believe, is October 25th, so
Right.
we can certainly look at what the options are and what is available.
I think that you should be able to bring back 2 or 3 scenarios with the traffic pattern, and which would be the most prudent one for, like the mayor was talking about, the arm,
Right,
or the
exactly.
system getting in and out, because
Exactly.
you certainly, the old saying, if you dance, you've got to pay the fiddler. There's some way that need to be a mechanism to collect before somebody violating that
Yeah.
situation with
Right.
parking in there when they're not supposed to.
Right.
So, I think there should be at least 2 or 3 scenarios that, you know, we could look
Do
at.
we need that in the form of a motion?
Yes, so I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, got a motion? There a second?
Second.
Any more discussion on it?
Is there a dollar cap on, do we need a
Well-
dollar consideration?
I was just thinking, Commissioner Dodd, they would bring it back, and then that would be part of our overall decision.
Next
Is if they
month.
said, here's the high
I mean, a
dollar.
consideration on the consultation in the next month. Do we need to place any limits on the consultants?
In looking at it, and they bringing us back different options, I don't think we need to put a dollar amount on it yet until next meeting, until we specifically pick what option that we want to look at.
I'm not making myself clear. You guys,
I think I understand.
I understand.
And
we
I
would
think it's
trust that you
minimal
would do
cost.
Not get carried
you
away.
don't spend $120,000 in consultation fees.
Sorry, there's no money left, right?
Well, you
Well, you hadn't really dealt with these guys.
And I have, and I'm to some extent being the devil's advocate for.
Yeah, but
Need to be.
these guys, you know, they believe in coming in under budget. I got to give them credit on that. New judicial building, parking garage, you give them a time limit, and we gave them an X amount of dollars, and they believe in coming in under budget. And if it's anything that they got a concern about, you most definitely know they're gonna let Bill office know, so we can have a special meeting with them to discuss it. So I feel comfortable with them, but I worked with them a couple of years, and you hadn't. So.
No, I feel comfortable as
Yeah.
well, but others who are witnessing may not. So.
Okay, we got a motion to second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about cameras?
Yeah.
Okay. The skateboard is what I'm concerned with.
That would be in the parking garage.
Yeah.
I'm really not having that issue in the parking lot at 319.
Yeah.
These are more of an issue in the parking garage, the skateboarders.
Oh, okay.
You can address it to PBA if you
Yeah.
like.
Well, at the towers, I was stationed at the towers for a while downtown, and we had skateboard problems. So we ended up having officers out there run them off during the day. So you think the biggest problem is at night, and I was wondering if these cameras being monitored after hours?
No, they're actually being videoed. I mean, there is videotape, but
So we're saying it after the fact?
yeah, that's correct. But they are monitored, I would say, you know, probably 10 hours a day or something of that nature.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, let's address repurposing of old judicial building, bank and coin building. So this afternoon, we took a tour of the old judicial building, and real good tour. And the reason we're bringing this up is that because we have new committee members on this commission, and I was hoping that you got a package from PBA to show you the plan that we have intact now for the judicial building. Okay. And when we started and we came up with plan option 7, it was a couple of things that were not in that package, and they would be 3 and 4 on the outline here, and then one was in-house legal services and centralized purchasing. In other words, when we came up with the proposal for the old judicial building, these two items were not brought up. So therefore, we need to really readdress what we've done with the addition of these 2 new items. So I'm gonna let the mayor fill us in on
All right.
that.
Mayor Mithrin, I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Chairman, would it be possible after the meeting or sometime this week to get that floor plan and space plan put on the SharePoint site for all of the commissioners to be able to view? I'm sorry.
We got copies.
Okay. Yeah, I don't,
But I
some of them
thought,
aren't here.
I
but
thought
know,
that
we get them online.
I was under the impression that it was sent out, but maybe
If it was, I never got it. That's why I was asking about the SharePoint site.
It's been put in the mailbox.
It was sent out. It was attached to the email with the agenda.
Okay.
It was sent out Monday.
Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, as a separate, could we still put it on the SharePoint
Yes.
site
Yeah, we
just
can.
to access it? Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I had this printed off this past week.
okay.
yeah.
It makes a lot of difference in the color. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and some may have questioned why the legal services, especially if you serve on the,
Commissioner Allen was,
if you serve on the steering committee.
yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the steering questioned why I put this on the calendar for tonight for property management, because this relates in-house legal services. It should go to steering, and that's where it'll travel next. However, that delays us a whole nother month if I wait and bring it back to property management. But dealing with in-house legal services deals with space. So here's the deal. This is one of the what the former mayor say it was not unfinished, but loose ends. This is one of the loose ends that he left on my desk. And because the county commission has been debating over the last several years whether or not that we retain our existing relationship with our current attorney and that staff, or do we go in-house? And it's been debated for several years. Josh has been, let me say, he was probably got his feelings hurt. He was beat up a little bit in the paper and et cetera for the way he was treated, and so he only signed a 1-year contract, okay, with us to see if he still wanted to continue. That contract runs out June 1st of 19, okay? So I need to make a decision. I need direction as your mayor to, do I start negotiating with him no later than December? Because if he says, I'm done, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to do all my private practice, I'm just going to go without, then I only have 6 months by the time his contract runs out June 1st in order to try to assemble and interview people to bring in-house and build a whole department in 6 months. Then the point comes, where do I put them? That was never considered in these plans.
Have you had any, I'm sorry, have you had any discussion with him on how he's moving toward that, or?
He said he would be open to discussion. He may want to increase his fee, he may not, but I have to start now, and I couldn't wait till I got to steering to negotiate. I need direction from the county commission. Also was on centralized purchasing. I don't know what centralized purchasing would look like. However, when I carried the Procurement Act of 2010, which went statewide, that was established because we had different silos. Every department had their own purchasing, okay? And the vendors were usually writing the specs for the person in each department to put out an RFP on, and then nobody else could compete, okay? I don't know what that would look like, but the comptroller, when I talked to him yesterday, said that he would be happy to come down and share with us. I don't know if that's the direction this county wants to travel. We may be happy with each department buying their own. One buys copy paper at Staples, which is $6 more a ream than what it is at Sam's. Some departments buy it at Sam's. I don't know, but it's something that needs to be considered because we've been getting written up every year for not participating. And is that the way we want to continue? If we're going to double in population and this county is going to continue to grow, it's something that needs to be considered. If it's going to be considered, and whatever that makeup looks like, and it's a whole different department or attached to finance, then is there space needed also in this building? I just need to put it out there the way it is. I have to make a decision based on, you don't want me coming back saying I need another $5 million to build another building, tear down the bank building and build another building to handle these two after the fact. Now is the time we make that decision. We have a new commission. Before we get in too deep, if you all say, let's go, we like Josh, fine, we'll roll on. We'll be back here next month and we won't have to worry about that. I'm looking for direction.
But that's the reason we're bringing it up tonight, and because of the two new items that's being added, and also trying to bring all the new commissioners up to date to where we are now. So that's the reason it's on the agenda tonight.
I can see pros and cons on purchasing, being a purchasing agent at one time.
Sure.
You can buy in bulk form a lot cheaper than you can 500 sheets of paper at a time, a ream of paper. There are some items it won't pay. And I think a purchasing agent, if we go that way, would need to know how to deal with the wholesale places and what to do. And then each department says, well, I want to order my own things.
Well, and that's what's happening, Commissioner Cook. I'm the chief purchasing agent based on our private act, okay? So I'm signing $40,000 for fuel. I'm signing, uniforms, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts for the ambulance service. All that's coming in, and all I can do is sign it, okay? As the purchasing agent, because somebody ordered it, I don't know. There's not another set of eyes looking at who ordered it and who drew up the bid specs on the RFP. It just comes in and I sign it.
And we've had that too, where the bid specs was written for one specific
Sure.
item.
Yeah.
And that's not right. That's not purchasing.
Well,
I mean, that's not bid in a contract.
when our schools are running $20 million more than what we think it's going to run, we're going to have to look very tightly, and we're having to build one per year. We thought $58 million to build one in Rockville and came in at $72 million. We've got to be very conscious of what we're spending with this growth. There's a lot of needs, but there's also a lot of wants. We got coaches over in education who are wanting AstroTurf, but at the same time, you heard just this past week, the parents complaining about the number of portables. Which is more important? They can run fast on turf, maybe.
I know when Laverne had 30 portables and wasn't fire inspected. Now we are out of most of those.
Sure. Well, these are all issues we have to be
and
very...
this is true.
Be focused on what we're doing, okay?
And this is what I was told when I come into county commission. You don't promise your constituents anything but watch their tax dollars and see that they're spent wisely. And this is where we can watch the tax dollars.
This growth is coming at us much faster than what it ever has. It's coming faster than most of us can even imagine. And it's just going to mushroom. I see it coming, I feel it coming. I'm up to the challenge, but it's going to take all of us working together to work on this. I've got some issues on, the building we just looked at from a space standpoint.
What is the appropriate committee to suggest centralized purchasing?
Steering.
And in-house counsel is going to be a very
Probably start out with
steering.
So what can this body do?
All I'm doing is just ask to delay until we can go through the appropriate committee, as opposed to the PBA taking action tonight to give the green light to the architect firm. And we had a meeting with them previously this afternoon. I said, I'm not saying no. All I want to do is just make sure we make the right decision for all concerned. And let's do it right. But don't hang me out there and then after we're halfway into this, oh, you know, let's go ahead and get an attorney, and then you say no, pull the rug out from under me, you know, and I'm out there by myself. You know, I want the commission's full support. What is the decision we want to do on in-house attorneys?
In other words, we met, and what we're looking at, we're not looking at eliminating this project, but we're looking at slowing it down until we get some of these questions answered, and then bringing it back to us, like legal, like centralized purchasing, and there may be some others that we have overlooked that may be coming up. But that's the reason we want to slow down. We got a schedule for this, and we're trying to slow this schedule down until we get these questions answered.
But I think Mayor was asking, don't go too slow where it gets to November 15th and then we tell him, oh yeah, we do want to hire in-house. It's too late with the space.
Right.
So Monday night we'll answer a lot of this with Steve's meeting. We'll start there and move forward.
And a lot
During
of,
our tour, I heard a comment about the election commission needing to be kind of done first of 19 for the.
Yes, sir. That has been, Commissioner, that's been the urgency of doing that because Mr. Farley wants to get in and get totally done and ready to go for the primaries for the 2020 elections. Okay? It's okay. He's still where he is. You know.
I think his concern was, is he going to be in the process of moving at that point?
That's your all's decision. You all run the county, the departments don't. All due respect to our department heads. You all run the county, you make the decisions. Don't yield to urgencies of other departments to get in or out. You all make the proper decisions on how we best spend our tax dollars.
Has there been any discussion, Mayor, what would happen after, you know, if IT would leave here and HR would leave here, what happens in this space?
We haven't approached that.
I'm curious.
Yeah, and then at some point in time, this committee will also have to address what we're going to do with the Osage meeting. We're just going to let everybody spread out, take more room, or what are we going to do with it?
Do we know what square footage of central purchasing department and in-house?
No, sir, we don't. I don't even know what that would look like, you know. Ms. Nolan doesn't want, she got a little nervous because she thought that might disrupt her structure and finance right now. You know, the county commission and the mayor's office needs to be working together to run and direct this county and decide who's going to be where and how they're going to be staffed, especially from general services or general part of you know, the county, and of course we'll be there to support all of our other constitutional officers, the sheriff's office, and the highway department. Highway departments, I think, is in pretty good shape. Sheriff's in decent shape, but he's bumping up against an issue that this committee will have to look at as far as staffing and being overcrowded. Can't lose that accreditation at the jail.
Well, you've having expressed your concerns about those two new offices, you think it's time to hear from our consultants on where they're at today?
Yes, sir.
Oh yes, they were going to make a presentation. They're sitting back in there. I see one of them smiling, laughing. I thought she thought she got out of it. But no, a presentation will be made tonight.
And I think they'll share with you that they can continue on.
Yeah.
Until we
I'm ready to hear from them.
Okay.
Your items.
Sure.
You ready?
Yes.
Well, we've already done a bit of the presentation for most of you as you walk through the building, but let me just do a real quick refresher of the past history of what we've done. We were hired by the county and managed by this committee to do a study of office space of selected buildings. which we did an analysis of existing facilities, and then we sat down and interviewed and talked to each department and did what we call a program, which describes how much space they need. We applied the standards that have been generated for the new judicial building. And then we went through a series of scenarios, working with this committee, multiple iterations of, we actually had about 9 of them. And then out of that, this committee debated and selected scenario 7 as the best choice. And then we were commissioned or hired to move ahead with schematic design for the scenario 7A, actually, which is the drawings that what we just toured and what you just saw is where we are in the process of developing those drawings for the schematic design for the repurposing of the building, which has IT, risk, HR, and the election commission in the building. And that's the tour we took, and the drawings reflect where we are with that development. And we are about to issue the schematic package, which is a narrative and these drawings, to a contractor to put together a pretty detailed estimate to see what this would cost. And then that would be the next step, to come back to this group, pick up any comments we have from this conversation, or any comments that we need to respond to with the conversation the mayor just brought up, how that potentially could affect this. We have not looked at that yet. But our next step is to come back with a reasonable cost estimate of what this fit out of the old courthouse would cost. So I went through that real fast, but some of you went through, we had multiple meetings, and that process took about 6 months for us to work through all of that. So, and Afton, Afton's done all the work, most of the work, led the effort. She was the interior designer for the new judicial building, so she's very, very familiar with the standards that were developed there, because she developed them. And then she is the one who's had all the conversations with the various department heads.
At any time you have questions, feel free to ask Steve.
How many square feet of expansion do you have?
About 1,800
Total?
square feet total.
Total.
For the future growth
Correct.
area.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
we're talking about
Ballpark.
footage, I just didn't know what we had
Yeah.
unused.
Right.
Total, not one floor, total.
Total.
Okay.
And the forecast of the program was current needs, and then a 5-year
That's right.
estimate, trying to look ahead 5 years to what each department would have.
So that's your required size is the future.
Is the future, and it applied the standards that had been implemented at the new judicial center, and then a 5-year forecast.
That's right. So this is the original, from scenario 7A, part of the office study. And then we also included, taking from the office study, which included numerous county departments, just the 4 that were planned in that scenario 7A for the existing judicial building. We're showing here their current head count and usable square footage that they take up today, and then what that projected square footage and head count is 5 years growth. And so that is what is planned, or that 23,000 usable square feet is what is planned, and it's probably in addition to that. Then you ask that question, what's remaining for growth? You can see there's about 30,000 usable square feet in the judicial building. So we are trying to fit that with these 4 departments, with also some shared support and group space, like the conference and training rooms.
Okay, it's one point that you may want to bring up also in delaying this, for this, the reason brought up tonight. As some of you know, we were looking at, under the old mayor, selling the bank building and the coin building. And between bringing this up, we really need to readdress that. And the reason being, it's been brought up that maybe we need to keep that space for future reference. In other words, we may need that for expansion in the future also. And then also, we're still looking at, do we need to tear it down, or gutted out, use it for some other reason. So these questions were brought up about the bank building and coin building, so we really need to readdress that.
Did we determine during all this study, remind me, that the bank building was not in any kind of a condition to refurbish?
We did. I mean, you remember
Okay,
we
yeah,
did sort of a
thanks.
red light, green light, yellow light about all your facilities, and it was by far the worst. And it needs a major, major renovation to be brought up to current modern office standards.
So I guess the recommendation, or what may make sense if we were to keep it, was to demolish it and possibly build something.
That certainly would be a reasonable path it could take. Another one would be to save the facade on the building and kind of rebuild everything inside of it. Yeah. Those would probably be the two things that would be analyzed to see which was the most cost-effective, use of money.
I have thoughts.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm usually late on when I'm too fast. I'd like to see us take that building over there and hold both of them. Do the maybe first and second floor, retail, and then have county offices above. I think with both buildings, we'd have plenty of room. I don't know. I don't know what all your figures would be. Then I'd like to see the Goldstein either sold, Dream sold, and the first 2 floors would be retail, and the rest of it would be a high-rise for apartments. And I think Murfreesboro would like that. We too would gain from the taxes, sales tax. It would be if they have retail on the bottom 2 floors. This has been suggested by some of my constituents, and they trade here. They live somewhere else and trade here. So I'm just throwing that out.
Well, in the scenarios, we did have versions that did that, and we did talk about that. One of the points on a building that had retail on the ground floor around the square, which makes a lot of sense, but then the county offices above it perhaps got the county in the landlord business. And I know that was a conversation that you all had, and you decided you didn't want to be in the landlord business. So that certainly is a reasonable idea that could be revisited, I guess. So
Well,
it's a more complicated building.
right. But what's not complicated when it comes to government? But this would pay for our building just like the Lang Ag building is being paid for because we're renting it out. I don't think we should be in the, I'm double talking, it should be in the rental landlord business. But I think the taxpayers think, okay, these people are renting this and it's not costing us money. See where I'm coming from on that? And then as the county grows, then they have these other buildings, floors that they can take over. I mean, like I say, it's just a thought.
Another thing that was brought up when we were looking at it was the purchase by Murfreesboro of the old church, the Methodist church building down there. We were trying to wait to see what would be their game plan in developing that. And I don't know if there's anything been finalized on that or not, but we basically, at that time, we're in the wait and see game with it. So it's quite a few things that has taken place since we approved some of this, and that's the reason we probably need to slow it down, not eliminate, but slow it down so we can bring these new things forward for them to work with.
Well, I know Murfreesboro has said to us several times, you know, the employees taking up parking on the square, but we've got other parking too, and this will give a feedback to them because they wanted to make the square something and I live too close to Davidson County.
What was y'all's agenda? What were your intentions before these two new operations came into effect? Were you going to present something to us tonight that's now off? We haven't even had a presentation.
Our intent was to present the design, state it, we'll do the tour, inform both committees of the status of the design, get feedback and comments, and then we were going to proceed ahead with the cost estimate. Then coming back in about a month at the next cycle of meetings to report back with what the cost would be for then action, to what action was going to, if we were moving ahead or not with the project.
Are y'all suggesting?
That's generally at a high level. I'm probably missing something. Yeah, that's generally.
Are you suggesting we just simply dispense with this topic for a month?
No.
Take no further action on it?
Talking with Jerry and the architects earlier today before we took the tour, they can proceed ahead and start costing. And determining what those costs are going to be.
We're at a pause naturally anyway for us while we put an estimate together with a contractor.
And then they can come back to October. It's not going to be that kind of delay, but my pressure now is going to come to steering. Let's resolve this issue. Let's decide. They may want to take another month. I don't know, but they can, in the meantime, be working. They can come back to you next month and probably give you a pretty good idea of what this renovation is going to cost.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but did not we vote on this scenario number 7? This is a two-pronged approach, that the Goldstein building and that's a moot point. That reworking
scenario
that with the
7,
planning.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Hampton, but the next domino effect would be after the old courthouse was renovated and folks moved into it, then there would be vacancies, if you will, in the Goldstein building and in the health department building, the old county hospital. And the next phase would be to do renovations in those buildings to make changes there, bring other parts, other groups in, and that was a little less defined, but that was the next domino effect.
Yeah, I
after
think
this.
your thoughts on
But the other thing is, did we not vote, and is not the old Cohen building on the market to be sold?
It was brought up, and that we gave the previous mayor the authority to go ahead and put it out there for sale.
Okay.
But I haven't heard no feedback on it. I don't know if it
That was one of the loose ends he left on the desk, and he didn't do it. So he said, "I'll leave that up to y'all." He said, "It's in your lap, Mayor." So here we are. This is I've been here a month. I'm pedaling as fast as I can, but trying to gather as much information to inform you all to make the best decisions. And here we have a whole new commission. We've got how many new members on this committee? 2 or 3? 3 on this committee, and I think it's important that this committee, push us in the right direction. We got big decisions to make in this committee.
Are we needing to approve them to go ahead and move forward with this? Is that what you're looking for? If so, I've got another thought on something.
Well, you bring up the
Okay. Okay. You brought up the in-house attorney thing and everything, and if that comes to fruition, you're gonna have some space for it.
That's what I was trying to
Would they need to maybe go back and look at, just right off the top of my head here?
Yes, sir.
The 4th floor, the whole floor for risk management, would they be some scenario that you could look at that would not be too costly or too time consuming or something, whatever that
Yeah,
you
the
could bring
next
back
step
to
for
us?
us, if we're directed to study that about in-house or in the county council and purchasing, would be for us to go back and work on it and come back to this group with, here's how that could work, and it might even be a couple options of how that could work.
Well, I mean, what if we do need that space, and then we've already agreed to this, but I think we need to give them some direction that maybe they could go back on the 4th floor revised space plan and look at that for Plan B for some future office space for centralized purchasing or turns either one, which you want.
How many, this is the first time you've seen scenario 7?
This is the first time for me in depth,
Yeah.
like in the property
Okay, so,
management meeting.
so several haven't seen, so this is the first time to see this. So over the course of the next month, I'll ask you to really study this. You know, my recommendation is, when I first saw it, was that there's too many conference rooms. You know, I would prefer, you know, as what we've seen, we've eliminated, when I was at the state, and I'm sorry to bring that up all the time, but we eliminated over 1 million square feet in usable space downtown. We just kept, you know, making it more and more efficient. Can some of these conference rooms that you'll see on each one of these floors, there's, some floors had 2 conference rooms. Can we turn that into training facility rooms to where they can, but to have conference, or can we open it up for a community-wide conference room to where community groups could come in and actually use it? I don't know. These are all scenarios that this committee needs to decide, but I think there was some opportunities that could be used. Now, I don't know how, Terry, that will affect you guys as far as determining what the cost is actually going to be.
Well, what would inform us right now, to some extent, you're talking about kind of rearranging the deck chairs.
Yeah.
And this is a full build out, almost of the whole building. So this cost estimate, I think, would be valid for the committee, because it would say, here's what it's going to cost in today's market to bring the building up to code, repair the systems that needed repair, and build, I'll call it a modern office space. So it will tell you what that's
going to get us pretty close, and then we'd pay you a little bit more just to rearrange the design.
We can go back and I'm sure Afton can come up with, thank you, Afton, can quickly come up with a lot of great ideas about how to change it. Sure. This is not cast in stone at all. These are pictured on the computer screen.
But I think by giving them the green light tonight, members, of letting them go ahead and start estimating, to come back to you with a round number of what it's going to cost to total build it
I think that would be very informative, because you would know. We did very high level estimates at the beginning, but estimating this set of documents with a pretty lengthy narrative that goes with it would be much more precise in the current marketplace, what it would cost to renovate the building as an office building. And purchasing and a legal service is just more office space. And then we could get into a conversation about what conference and training spaces could be shared, because I think what the mayor's pointing out is that there's a little bit of duplication in this between the different departments. So I believe there's a little more sharing that can take place.
So basically, you're going to be able to come back and give us a cost estimate on this as it is.
That's correct.
And then if we need to tweak it somewhere along the way of rearranging some of the office spaces to accommodate maybe in-service, in-house attorney or something of that nature, that would be taken into.
Yeah, I mean, we could give you the costs, you know, what it's going to be to renovate the whole building as an office building. Okay. The question that would be a little bit unknown, and through our work we could explore if the building itself would be big enough to accommodate the programs that have been identified, and if we add 2 more to it, we could figure out, does it really fit?
Okay, so the time urgency, can you share with the members what the total time of build out would be?
We believe, not being a contractor, but we consulted with some, we believe it's about a 6-month construction window to build it. And it's about a 3-month period for us to finish the construction documents and get it permitted. So from the time we're triggered off with an approved design at this level, we believe it's about a 9-month process to get to a finished,
fall of 19.
To get to a finished product where people are moving in.
Any more questions? Comments?
I got a question. Brian, on your offices are currently downstairs?
Downstairs and
They're all around you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're here and there.
Well, how much square footage do you occupy? Now, is upstairs mainly the communication television station, or?
Well, Geographic Information Systems is located on the north side. The south side, yeah, there you go. There's
Say-
this side over here is the cable channel, and then there's like 8 employees above us that are IT, regular IT folks.
Would you keep any space in this courthouse?
No,
When you move?
No, not for personnel. The only thing we would retain would be behind the elevator here, the video control room, so that
Right.
we're able to televise these meetings.
And so right now you've got,
About 3,000.
3,400 or so.
Plus the
3,400.
storage at Goldstein, which we took into account to relocate into a new
okay.
space.
So currently in this building, you got about 3,000 square feet.
And
But it's all over the place.
it's very marginally effective space, I will say.
Okay.
Mhm.
That probably doesn't count landings such as that on the 3rd floor where we have equipment stacked all the way to the ceiling, like 8 feet deep.
Well, and I'm just curious on what will we gain as far as office space here when you transition over to
Yeah.
We had thought through the domino.
We had growth space in this as part of scenario 7A to backfill, right, from where IT would be moving
Yeah,
out.
there it is.
It's really just more growth for,
Finance and trustee.
that's right, finance trustee. We left a little spot for, I think what Brian was referencing, for the video area.
Video control.
And the data room downstairs probably needs
Right.
to be the MDF for the
That's right.
courthouse.
Would the big purchasing have to be in the courthouse because of would it be part of finance or part of your
Well,
office?
as I stated earlier, Sonia, I don't know that. That's why I yesterday asked the comptroller to send some folks down that might have a little more expertise, since they write us up all the time and tell me what that should look like.
So it could be possible that department could be situated somewhere in here, possibly.
It's possible.
Absolutely. We haven't, this is a little bit new to us too. We haven't really put a pencil or a mouse to it yet to figure it out.
Any more discussion? One thing I like to bring up,
I just wanted everything on top of the table.
we did vote to sell the bank building and the coin building. Should we proceed to get bids on that, or should we just back off on that? Or?
What does the commission want to do?
Yeah, what
wanna
you
sell
think we
it?
need to do on that?
What if there's asbestos?
Yeah,
Yeah, what if there's issues in there and we take it down, and then do we have control, being a good neighbor to the Main Street, and the whole square, do we have control on what, if we sold it, somebody tears it down and builds some modern structure, or something that's out of character for all the commissioners get beat up for allowing that to happen. All I'm doing is playing devil's advocate, Commissioner, of all the things we need to think about. If that's what we're gonna do, or do we just, tear it all the way to the ground, put green space over there and hold on to it? You can tear out the guts and leave the bones of that exterior of that building and build something new inside of that, or you can sell it as is.
I think the old property management committee decided to go ahead and put it on the market. And I think that's a prudent thing to do, to put it back on the market. And, what's the thoughts of the rest of the committee? I'm just only one of 7.
Well, new commission can override anything the old commission used to do.
Exactly.
Just share that for any new members, I'll do whatever directed to do.
I've been confident that we've been a reasonable group of decision makers in my 4 years, and I would not want to go back and second guess every decision made on the committee. So I'm reluctant to spend time and energy redoing what the previous committee did. But I'd like to ask the chairman his opinion on, having been set through this and led this group through that conversation.
Well, we had a lot of discussion on it, and we sent it out with the mayor to get some bids on it and see if anyone want to purchase it. That was the main thing. It was the main thing is just seeing if it was a market out there for it, number one. And number two, if we looked at maybe holding on to it, but then we discussed the cost of maybe going in there and renovating the coin building and bank building, and it just didn't seem feasible at that time to put that money in that building to remodel. And also, it was a brief discussion on green space for that building. Just tear it down and just have green space there, you know, like for the public or whatnot. Those were the three things we discussed. Virtually speaking, we put out selling that building maybe a couple of months, you know, before the new commission came on board. And as far as I know, we didn't have no takers, but he said that the mayor had left that as one item that he could look at. I myself personally don't see no reason why we can't look at the bids, because we voted on a resolution that we would be the one that decide who comes in there. In other words, whatever happened, it had to be approved by us before they could get it. So we still let the bids come in, and that just be more information that we would have since we, you know, went to that. I don't see nothing wrong with just continuing on with that.
How does the county sell excess property? What is our protocol to post it for sale? Do we hire a realtor?
At that time, he was at, the previous mayor was just gonna put it out there on the market. Yeah, just publicize it and see what bids come in. There wasn't no set way to do it.
We don't know the outside.
Right, and so we can still, you know, put it out there and just, in other words, he was gonna get fillers for us. And we can still do that.
I'm curious though, Mr. Chairman, it just reeks of government to me that we're talking about in one breath that we need more room, and then we're talking in the next sentence to tear down a building that we could use for extra capacity. Have we fully exhausted looking at that? I appreciate what you said about it's in really bad shape, but is there value in restoring that? For how much additional square footage would that be, Mayor or Deputy Mayor?
How much would it be? 18?
I think it's about 14,000.
14,000.
So it's roughly half of
that would be a two-story building.
What
about
is
14,000.
Okay, I'm just trying. I don't want us to cut off our nose to spite our face almost. Where if there's value there, the mayor and the deputy of the mayor see value in having that conversation about restoring it. Are we doing our due diligence?
The conversation this afternoon was while we renovating the old judicial building, just to hold the coin building and the bank building, because we were looking at whatever we did, we possibly do it during the time we were doing the renovation on the old judicial building.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, that we did talk about that, and maybe we just proceed ahead with the judicial building, board it up. Then, of course, over the next 9 months or something, we can talk about the direction we want to go. You know, Ben Mackin took several of us last week. We went downstairs all the way down to the dirt tunnel. It goes back to the other vault that y'all didn't see today. That's in the very bottom. Was built back in 1925. There's some strength in that building. I think we need to turn the air conditioner off because it's bad. My opinion, if you're going to do anything, keep the outer structure, because I think the bones of the outer structure of the facade is still good. You could go in there and rip all that out and keep that. And I think you all participate in that.
That's pretty much what we recommended, is what you would need to do to bring it up to again, use, modern standards in office space.
Yeah, and again, like Commissioner Johnson, I'm just one of 7. I just want to make sure if we've got that, are we fully considering all those options to have that space, even if we have to tear the inside out and rebuild
Just
it.
gut it and leave the exterior building, it still looks
Yeah.
like the old bank, what the
Right.
square looks like, and then you've got that option. You can sell it, you can have additional space. I just don't like growing government.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to figure out with what's the right way, because even when we were talking about tearing it down, does the Murfreesboro Historic Zoning Commission have any say in that, with it being on the square about, would that be an issue? Who came in?
No.
It's on the historical register, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's not on.
Maybe it's on the register.
Okay,
It's
I
not
just
on
didn't
the
know if the
register.
region or if the area of the courthouse and the town city square was considered historic, where they would have an impact on what could go there or not go there. Does that make sense? Okay, I
It would go through the normal process, and there would be scrutiny from the city
Yeah.
about meeting the intent, but it is not on the historic register.
Okay,
So,
okay.
But you all have expertise. You tore down a building in Nashville, right? You gutted it, left the facade on the
yes,
outside.
actually, the Birch Courthouse that we designed, if you're familiar with the Ben West building right in front of it, was kind of similar to the annex and in very bad shape. We completely gutted the inside of that building and rebuilt the inside and restored the outside. Different shaped building, not exactly the same circumstance, but pretty similar.
But you've done a process similar
Yeah.
to that
I
conversation.
mean, it's it's a detailed exploration into how to do that.
Yeah.
It's certainly possible.
One, the general consensus was that the building, it'd be kind of like throwing good money after bad to try to do anything.
Well, it's almost like building a new building, because you're going to have to put back 75% of the value of that building to get it up to standards, leaving the facade, but you're only saving a certain percent, maybe 25% of the value of it.
So this would be kind of like the movie The Money Pit.
You hope not, but a renovation has an unknown piece to it until you get into it and you discover things that you can't know until you start to tear it down.
One thing we were looking at also during the time when it was brought up about possibly selling this building, that was during the time that Murfreesboro City had purchased this piece of property over here, and they were getting some feedback from different developers, and man, they was jumping up in the millions that were going to be used to purchase this, and these developers was talking about high rises and so on and so forth. So, the idea came up that, hey, we got property too. If we put that property out there on the market and get an outrageous price for it, we may be able to pay for our whole project of renovation. That's one reason it was brought up.
Right.
Because
I remember that.
Yeah. What was going on there. But we're not in no rush to tear it down or do anything with it.
As a member of this committee, I would like to make the motion to retract the consideration of selling that building for now and reevaluate our desire.
Got a motion, do I hear a second to that effect?
I'll second.
Got a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. I think we basically just covered everything on the agenda.
Do you also need a motion?
Oh, you got enough? Let them proceed on?
I think I'm prepared, if I get I'll venture this out to get a second. I'll make a motion to proceed with a contractor's cost analysis of this 7A.
Second. Motion and a second. Okay, I think they were gonna proceed on with their schedule anyway, but we'll go ahead and
Well,
make it
that
more
was the next
official.
thing we were going to do.
They were gonna do it anyway.
That is sufficient.
Now you got a double, I
No,
guess.
you do not need anything else.
I don't think we need a motion. They were gonna go ahead and move on with it anyway, but.
Unless you told me to not do that.
Yeah. I think that.
I feel better with a motion.
You feel better with a motion?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Any more discussion on the motion? Would anybody like the motion?
Well, this motion's only without that conversation happening anyways with purchasing.
Yeah.
They were doing this anyway, right?
Yeah, they were gonna proceed on it anyway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now you feel better?
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Any other business to bring up?
It's a good meeting.
Talking about the whole meeting?
The whole meeting?
What about number 5?
We covered number 5. Oh,
What about number?
we combined.
Yes.
David, I wonder what is number 5?
Yeah, I'm about to forget it. Use of courthouse plus grounds.
Appreciate it.
Talk about that.
I think I know what he's going to reference. I think we had a discussion on it before, but go ahead and bring it up.
Okay. Of course, we won't know how to use the courthouse later. Depends on in 9 months or whatever time there is to move out of here. We'll have additional space to look at. But I'm more concerned about, there was in budget, you all looked, for those who were here last year, you looked at a budget. I think that maybe Ben had submitted somewhere around the $400,000 mark. But that is to take care of the grounds. I'm trying to find out more information from the city about, right now we're paying about $98,000 to the city to help pay the light in the current parking facility, as well as keep the grounds around the courthouse. If you've noticed, it looks unkept outside of the courthouse. You walk by the bushes and they're haven't been trimmed. You get wet when you walk by them on the sidewalk because they're extending out over the courthouse. I know Laura in my office said that the leaves, she got hired 2 years ago, and there's leaves under one of the trees over there and hadn't been raked out since she got here 2 years ago. Main Street has approached us, and I gave them the green light to go ahead and start looking for a permanent tree.
Permanent what?
Christmas tree. To actually plant. Now, we took down the old maple that came down. We had to grind the stump down, but I was talking with Ben, and a fast-growing tree is the state tree, which is a tulip poplar that could go right next to that. And then right out near the front is where we could put a permanent Christmas tree. The problem with something indigenous, there's a Virginia pine, there's a couple other trees that are indigenous to Tennessee. Unfortunately, the cedar doesn't make a good Christmas tree. The limbs are not strong enough to handle the big ornaments that are put on there. Every time the wind blows, our ornaments are rolling around on the square. So I think Main Street is looking, am I correct, Brian? Brian's on the board of directors for Main Street. And they're currently looking. It's a little difficult because we don't want to put a little 6-footer out there, you know, like we put in our living room. You know, you want something with a caliper large enough to show, you know, because we always have gotten something at least 20 or 25 feet high to do that. And so as we head into next year's budget also, you know, when I checked with Murfreesboro, because they were supposed to take care of the pansies and all the flowers around it, but it's all mud. I think we need to possibly look at irrigation and sodding on the grass areas around the courthouse. I was going to reach out to the Master Gardeners Association here in Rutherford County, and maybe they could take this on as a project to help come in and design for us, trim out some of these old bushes and trees and design and mulch the area around the courthouse. So it's something that the courthouse is a gem. We need to paint it. We need to address from a property management standpoint. That was another loose end that previous mayor left for me. We were walking out of the last meeting that he chaired, walking down the steps, and if you've noticed, the carpet on the steps are all worn. And he said, that's one of the loose ends I didn't tell you about. And he said, and I said, what's that? And he said, the carpet all needs to be replaced. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, you're not going to like it. He said, it's $300 a yard. and especially loomed in London. Members of the committee, I think we can find something that's just as pretty. You know, I'm not talking Lowe's or Home Depot $5.95 a yard, but I think we can find something that looks a little more appropriate, you know, but not $300 a yard, all wool. You know, it's the same mill that makes the carpet for the Capitol and U.S. Capitol. Well, they got plenty of money, I guess, but we don't. But that's part of it, painting the outside columns, painting the cupola, and kind of dressing it up, because as the courthouse is our gym for the entire county, reflects on all the other retail businesses around the square as well. So if they see we're looking good, I mean, I told Ben to go get a new pressure washer. We're coming up on Veterans Day, coming up in November. That thing's all needs to be pressure washed. Mr. Cannon, it's it's just dirty. The outside is, if you look at it, it needs some refreshing. We haven't paid attention to it, and we should.
And what are we paying the city, $98,000 to do?
It takes care of the electricity, the sweeping out of the garage, and then planting the pansies and things around the interiors of the
garage.
Well, of the garage and the square. You know, all the flowers they put around, but we got an awful lot of bare spots out there. You know, it's just nobody's done anything with it. What little bit of grass we got, it's all clover or anything else. I think we can make it appropriate, but that's for this coming spring as we start heading into the budget area. I just want to let you know what we're working on. I have requested that from a security standpoint, this building is unsecure. There's no security in this building at all. It scares me that IT is even in here. People can come and go as they please. In my office, if there was an active shooter out in the hall and heard the bang, you can't lock my door going into the mayor's office, so Vicki and Laura would be first in line. You have to go to the outside and lock it with a key. So I've requested that they look into getting at least some for me and the trustee. Now the trustee doesn't have a lot of money all year long, but 2 months out of the year, he has a lot of money. You know, coming in when people start to pay their property taxes by year end, or at least by the end of January. So, these are just things I'm working on.
And basically, that was a conversation, but it would be coming out of the mayor's office, this recommendation or whatnot. I don't think he's looking for us to make a decision tonight.
I'm not
on what to do. He's just sharing this with us as information, the way where he's headed from his office with the bill.
Also, let me just share with you, I've asked Brian, and Brian's working on it along with Ben, and we've got two 85-inch screens, high-definition screens that will be going in, and we're going to remove the old vote board that I used to vote on, and Alan and Steve used to vote on. Those will be, two will be placed on each side. I know sometimes the light reflection on the screen that comes down is hard to read, so these are two 85-inch. And they've been shipped, is that correct?
Yes, they may have even arrived today.
Okay.
Ben started demolition on the previous board.
Yeah, so we're going to start redoing all that and trying to match the wallpaper. It's so tough of wallpaper that's that old, so we're going to try to maybe frame it in to where, because the wallpaper, a little bit that we have left, this is bleached just to the age of it. Even though it's the same wallpaper, it's 3 shades different.
What were you saying about you talking about the old voting?
Yes, you're right.
And what are we doing?
We're putting in two 85-inch screens, TV high monitor screens. All the votes and everything will be recorded on both sides of the chamber.
Right where this board is.
Well, there'll be one there, and it'll be on the other side.
One on the other side too.
Board's going away as well.
Yeah.
Will it? With those
your name will still go in.
But would it still look like historical type?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ben thinks that he can come in. Brian, didn't he say that he can come in with some trim around that and make it look historical as well? But still, it's just getting us up to date, quicker, high resolution, and these are commercial, not what you buy an 85-inch at Best Buy. These are high resolution,
correct,
commercial.
grade.
where you don't get the burn in and the screens and et cetera.
Correct.
These are what they use in commercial applications, I would assume. So Brian's on top of that. I just want to share with you what we're doing in the chamber. And carpet's another issue we got to deal with, so.
Okay, we got one more thing to do on the agenda. It concerns our November meeting. Look like
We're scheduled to meet on Thanksgiving.
we're scheduled to meet Thanksgiving, which is fine with me.
I'm not coming.
But looking at the schedule, it was moved to November the 29th. November the 29th, if nobody have any objection on the committee. Any objection to that November 29th? So, okay, so that's what we'll be changing our meeting date to, November the 29th. Is any commissioner have anything to bring up to the committee tonight? Mayor, you have any other business to bring up tonight?
No, sir. I'm good, Mr. Chairman. We covered a lot tonight. That's why I'm meeting.
I don't have any other business.
You don't? Well, if Commissioner Gooch do not have any more business, I'll make a motion that I accept the motion.
Okay, good job.